So, what to expect? You can expect truth. I will tell you the truth, absolutely. Okay, well, my truth, right? Those truths, my truths, your truths, really kind of based on opinions. Those opinions are based on experience. And yeah, there's definitely going to be some contradictions. I'm going to say to do some things, and then later on I'm probably going to be saying never do those things. But it's not never. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But truth, opinions, experience, and contradictions. I mean, on the topic of never, never say never, right? Mind you, never assume. So which is it, right? Which is it? Never say never, never assume. Well, I don't like to use the word assume, but there's only one closing technique that I know how to use, and that's the assumptive close. I didn't realize that's what it was until someone informed me of all the different sales techniques. It was a presentation, and the guy went through like 9 different sales techniques, closing techniques, etc. And I got to that, and I was like, assumptive close. I just kind of live in that space. Now, I don't like to assume anything, ever. That's a very dangerous place to go. But yeah, I mean, I just assume everyone's going to show up. I assume you're going to have a good time. And I assume if you're not having a good time, you're going to tell me why that was. When it comes to closing techniques, I think this is a great space to live in. And we're going to get into that when we talk about the scripting with clients, when you're on a call with a client. You never want to sound like you're in doubt as to whether they might work with you or not. Of course they're going to work with you. Who else would they work with? You're it. You're the man, you're the woman, you're the broker, you're the one that they're going to be working with, always. So, quick note here. You'll see, insert thank you here, right, to all the sponsors. All right, so there are no sponsors. Guys, you're the sponsor. You're it. I'm not beholden to anybody. There's no check been written to me by any corporate entity of any kind. I did have one lender offer me money. They said, you don't have to mention our name, you don't have to do anything special, you don't have to put our logo anywhere. We just know you're probably going to wind up talking about us because, well, experience. So we just want to say thank you. And I had the invoice prepped by my bookkeeper, because I use a bookkeeper. And it's sitting in my drafts folder, and I have not hit send on it. I just can't bring myself to do it because I really like being able to say, I got no sponsors whatsoever. I got nobody I'm beholden to except you. It's all you. So as I say, you're going to hear me say some things you may not agree with, or you may agree with, but nobody's paying me anything to say these things. These are just, again, based on my experience. I wanted to keep it real, right? That was the big thing. Now, the other issue that I've come up against a couple of times with this type of thing, I also don't have anything additional to sell you. So there's no stream across the bottom, click here to get more information on that. There's no email coming out to you, click here to buy more, buy this, buy that. In the old school, there would have been like a $1,000 binder full of bullshit at the back of the room that you could buy and go home and put on a shelf and never read. And you'd have that $1,000 binder full of bullshit up there. But you know, it would remind you of the event. You'd never pull it off the shelf and ever open it again, but it made you feel good in the moment to invest in yourself. And I get that. I realize that's what's happened with those binders, so I never wanted to put those out. So as I say, this is it. You're in for the year, you're in for the next 2 days, and you're in for what unfolds over the next 50 weeks. And it's all just you and I. It's you and I. And there is a budget now, so there's going to be some things that are going to happen. Now, when I said keep it real, I'm not going to digress a whole lot today. I've got slides to keep. The slides are the guardrails, right? The slides are the guardrails. But speaking of guardrails and keeping it real, I wanted to share this story because it popped into my mind. It's 20 years ago now, but it's got to be real. It's got to be real, man. A friend of mine is coming back from a dirt bike race up in the interior. He's coming down the Coquihalla Highway, which if you're in BC, you've ever driven the Coquihalla, you know how steep the Coquihalla is. It's a beast. I had a work van that I could throw in neutral, and top speed, it was geared for 120K. It would hit 160 coming down the Coke. So he's in a Toyota 4x4, ancient truck, throws it in neutral, same thing, gets it up to about 140, 150 kilometers an hour, cruising along, and this guy was like fighter pilot calm, stone-faced. You never knew what was happening under the surface. You never knew what was coming next. And my friend Chris is sitting in the passenger seat, And Chris, he says, yeah, I know, we're sitting 1 minute, we're cruising down the highway, and the next minute, whoo, 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 because the dude in the driver's seat, he just casually went, whoo. No brakes, no warning, no nothing, just whoo, up the runaway lane. And they're bouncing like crazy, and a rig had already gone up there with a way wider wheelbase, so they fall into one of the ruts, and they're rocking back and forth and bouncing like crazy. And he's like, hey, Chris is yelling, hit the brakes, man! And Oliver's like, it's gotta be real, I want it to be real, it's gotta be real. There's an airbag story as well that had to be real, but suffice it to say, they both survived to tell that story. Sometimes it's important, it's gotta be real, right? Other times, well, I'm just glad that I've grown out of that crazy, crazy space that we all have. There's a lot of silly things out there in the world, isn't there, right? Touching wires, yeah, there we go, right? I threw that in for somebody, a friend of mine that I mentioned. Good little, not everything makes sense in this world. So, I may curse, but I will not bullshit you. One slide and done. Since 2014, I've had this exact slide in every presentation, I think, just about every presentation I've ever given. The 3 keys to success in business and in life. Number 1, be kind. Be kind. And has the world needed that more than ever over the past 2 years? People just aren't kind to one another in a lot of ways. In fact, it's one of the things that is turning me off of Instagram completely. I've opened it a couple of times to share like a little clip of being around here the last couple days. And every time I open it, it is just some nasty example of human behavior. So, you know, I don't know, social media, it's a struggle, isn't it? Be kind, work hard, work hard. We'll talk about just how hard we really wind up working, but work hard. Be kind, work hard, and maintain control. These 3 things, like if those are the only 3 things you wrote down, those are the only 3 things you thought about, it'd be worth the price of admission. And I know for myself, it's like a note to self. By the way, almost all these slides, they're like a note to self. They're a reminder to me to behave a certain way. Be kind, work hard, maintain control. It's amazing how far you can go in life with a smile on your face as well. And that's something I got to work on. I live inside my head a lot. And it's not that I'm not happy. It's not that I'm not happy to see you. It's not that I don't recognize you coming towards me. It's that I'm in my own head. I'm thinking my own thoughts. I'm a little bit too introverted, a little bit too in my head. And I wind up with a bad case of RBF. And that's not a good thing. And it's amazing how the world changes around you when you smile. And when you greet other people and you're kind to other people and you smile at them, it blows my mind. Just the level of interaction, the way it changes. So, like I say, it's pretty incredible.